The movie revolves around a former hitman who has left his violent life behind and taken refuge at sea to escape his haunting past. But fate has other plans for him, as his boat gets damaged, and he finds himself stranded at the Thousand Islands in Indonesia. There, he meets a local named Doni, and their meeting triggers a chain of events that drag the hitman back into the dangerous world he had tried to leave behind. As the hitman struggles to confront his past, he becomes entangled with a gang of ruthless human traffickers, forcing him to confront the consequences of his actions. The story unfolds against the backdrop of the beautiful waters near Jakarta Bay, where we meet Ryan Teller, an Australian traveler who loves to explore different countries. He's fishing from his boat when he discovers that his vessel is damaged, and he must seek help from the locals to repair it. As he heads towards the nearest island, he finds himself in possession of a gun, and his adventure takes a dangerous turn. With the help of the local fishermen, he manages to obtain the necessary supplies. Ryan was stranded on the island and needed a mechanic to repair his ship. He asked a local man who pointed him in the right direction. Ryan searched the village streets until he found Epi, a mechanic who checked his spare parts but didn't have what he needed. Epi said he could fix the parts in 3 days, but Ryan didn't want to wait that long. So, he offered Epi 300,000 rupiah to fix it in 2 days, which Epi agreed to. While walking down the road, Ryan accidentally knocked over a little boy named Doni. Doni offered to be his guide and help him find what he needed on the island. At first, Ryan refused, but Doni was persistent and spoke fluent English, so Ryan eventually gave in. As Ryan walked through the alley, he stopped to buy canned food. Doni, who was with him, noticed that one of the cans was broken and protested to the seller. However, the seller didn't seem to care and Ryan was willing to buy it anyway. Nearby, a young mother and her daughter were begging the stall owner to let her owe money. But the stall owner refused, citing the woman's accumulated debt. It turned out that the young mother was Doni's mother, Genti. She had lost her husband in a sea accident and was struggling to make ends meet. When she saw Doni, she called him over and he told her about his job as a guide and porter for Ryan. Grateful for the job opportunity, Genti gave Doni 50,000 rupiah. Speaking in broken English, Genti thanked Ryan for hiring her son and offered to have him over for dinner. Ryan politely declined, and Genti reminded her son to be careful and not trust strangers too easily. With that, Genti asked permission to leave and told Doni to work carefully. As they loaded the goods onto the boat, Doni's pleading face made Ryan relent and allow him to come aboard. Curious, Doni started touching the items on the boat and asked Ryan what he did for a living. Ryan told him that he was retired. Later that afternoon, Ryan took Doni back to the mainland. As they parted ways, Doni once again invited Ryan to have dinner at his house, which was located at the end of the road in a wooden hut with a blue door. That evening, Ryan was eating his canned food when he decided to take Doni up on his offer and head to his house for dinner. Meanwhile, on a boat not far from Ryan's, a young woman was being dragged by a man. The boat belonged to Yanto, the leader of a local mafia syndicate involved in human trafficking. Their target was young girls from the islands around Jakarta, and Yanto ordered his men to find more victims to send to a man named Lee in Jakarta. At home, Doni couldn't wait to share his exciting news with his friends about meeting a foreigner named Ryan. But his friends didn't believe him until there was a knock on the door and Ryan showed up with a fresh catch from the sea. Doni was overjoyed to see that his story was true. As they waited for dinner to cook, Doni showed off his chickens to Ryan, who inquired about Doni's father. Doni sadly revealed that his father had passed away. Despite the somber moment, they enjoyed a simple meal together. As Ryan bid them farewell, he asked Doni to help him again the next day at the dock. As the morning sun rose over the Thousand Islands, a menacing group of men led by a local thug named Abel arrived on the island. The children trembled in fear as they knew the purpose of their visit was to take more girls. Meanwhile, Ryan was busy teaching Doni how to make arrows and catch fish in the sea. They proudly brought their catch back to Doni's mother, who was impressed with their skills. Genti, Doni's mother, extended a warm invitation to Ryan to stay for dinner, which he happily accepted before bidding them farewell. Ryan approached Epi, asking for spare parts for his ship that had just undergone repairs. However, he was disappointed with the work done and requested it to be fixed again, while compensating for the costs. This led to a bond between Ryan and Doni's family, where he frequently visited and engaged in activities with Doni, Dewey, and Genti, who couldn't help but steal glances at him. One day, Doni was heartbroken as his favorite chicken was killed by a stray dog. Ryan offered him advice, suggesting he either give up and let it go, or take action by killing the dog. Donnie refused to resort to such cruel measures and instead decided to build a better cage to keep his chickens safe. That fateful night, Ryan accompanied Donnie to guard his chickens from stray dogs, but they were not the only threat on the island. Yanto's gang terrorized the locals, taking any woman they wanted with no consequences. Young girls were kidnapped from their homes, and those who resisted were threatened or harassed. At the island market, Donnie helped Ryan sort through the goods he had purchased. When they didn't fit, Ryan asked Donnie to carry them home in his wooden cart. As Donnie eagerly pulled his cart, Abel and his thugs sped through the market, hitting Donnie and driving off. Ryan, furious, hurled a stone at the car's rearview mirror, prompting the thugs to stop and confront them. Undaunted, Ryan led the thugs to a quiet place and faced them calmly, despite their curses and brandishing of machetes. However, the situation quickly turned violent when the injured thug attacked Ryan, who retaliated with shocking brutality, ultimately killing the thug. Ryan sprang into action when he saw Donnie's injured body lying on the ground. While Abel cowardly hid in the car, Ryan rushed to Donnie's aid, his clothes becoming drenched in blood. Abel eventually emerged from the car and checked on his men, but they were already beyond help. Ryan knew he had to act fast and took Donnie to his home where Genty was waiting. He assured Genty that he would use his medical skills and equipment from his ship to save Donnie's life. Genty was amazed at Ryan's expertise in stitching up Donnie's wounds, but Ryan remained tight-lipped about his medical background. While tending to Donnie, Ryan learned about the menacing thugs who terrorized the island and victimized its people. Genty revealed that the thugs visited the market every month, where they extorted money and abducted young women. The islanders were too frightened to resist, and those who did were met with violent ends. Ryan realized that Genty and her children were in grave danger and offered to take them to a safe place. However, Genty refused to leave her home despite the danger. Abel rushed to report to his boss, Yanto, who was in the midst of torturing a girl who had tried to escape from their ship. He showed Yanto the photo he had taken of Ryan, which jogged Yanto's memory. He recalled that Lee had been searching for Ryan, and knew that he had to inform his boss immediately. Meanwhile, in a luxurious apartment in Jakarta, Lee appeared to be a successful property entrepreneur with numerous nightclubs and luxury hotels. However, Lee had a dark side. He was involved in drug trafficking and human trafficking, particularly for his nightclubs. As his men handed him a phone with a message from Yanto, Lee was stunned to see the photo of Ryan that Yanto had sent. Lee hurried back to his lavish home, retrieving a file from his stash of belongings that he had kept for a long time. He quickly opened his laptop and matched the photo of Ryan with the information he had on file. Realizing that he needed to act fast, Lee immediately made a call to hire a service to capture Ryan and bring him to him alive. Upon arriving at Donnie's house, Ryan unpacked his suitcase of location tracking devices and attached a watch to Donnie's wrist and a necklace to Dewey's. He explained to Genty that the devices would ensure their safety while he was away. He also gave Genty a piece of jewelry with a location tracking device and instructed her to stay put. If he didn't return within 2 hours, she should take her children to the green church at the pier. As Ryan made his way to the pier, he realized that he was being targeted by a sniper. Unbeknownst to him, Lee had hired the sniper to capture Ryan alive. However, Ryan was quick to pick up on the danger and sought refuge in the pier's equipment warehouse. It didn't take long for him to discover that he wasn't alone. There was someone else there. Ryan wasted no time in subduing the intruder and demanding to know who had sent him. Despite the intruder's fear, he refused to answer Ryan's questions, prompting Ryan to take drastic action and kill the intruder. Ryan Teller is a renowned and feared assassin, known as the Messenger for his ability to deliver death wherever he goes. He has retired for almost a decade but is still being hunted by Yanto and his men, who want to kill him for taking out some of their own. Lee, a wealthy property entrepreneur with a dark side, scolds Yanto for underestimating Ryan's abilities and orders him to wait for help from Jakarta before making any moves. Lee himself has a vendetta against Ryan, who he believes killed his parents when he was a child. Meanwhile, Lee's girlfriend Taika tries to calm him down, but he is consumed by anger and grief. He inherited his parents' fortune and status as the only heir to a wealthy conglomerate after their brutal murder. But his men on the island are refusing to obey his orders to kill Ryan, forcing him to wait for reinforcements. Yanto, however, is impatient and decides to take matters into his own hands by targeting Ryan's loved ones. Lee is furious with Yanto's recklessness and curses him for putting their entire operation at risk. As Ryan wandered through the village on the island, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. And he was right. A sniper had him in their sights. But Ryan was a seasoned pro and his instincts told him to seek cover in a nearby building. Inside, he was caught off guard when he came face to face with Tom, an old acquaintance from his days as a hitman. Tom had a gun pointed at him and apologized profusely, admitting that he needed the money and had been hired to take Ryan out. Ryan was surprised that Tom would dare to target him, given their history. Ryan demanded to know who was after him and Tom revealed that it was a man named Lee from Jakarta, and there were 3 others on his tail. Ryan was alarmed to hear that one person had already been killed. Tom warned him that Lee was the boss of the local thugs and they wouldn't stop until they caught Ryan. Tom pleaded with Ryan for forgiveness and promised to disappear forever. But Ryan knew that Tom had missed his chance and he couldn't let him go so easily. Yanto was growing increasingly impatient and decided to take matters into his own hands. He ordered his men to travel to the island and eliminate anyone associated with Ryan, including the 2 young children who were close to him. Abel and his men arrived on the island, ready to carry out their orders. But little did they know, Ryan was ready for them. He stabbed himself in the chest and removed a GPS device, activating it and sending out a signal. Meanwhile, in New York, Toby was one of the admins responsible for managing the needs of the assassin organization worldwide. She received a signal indicating that someone was ready to work. That someone was Ryan, also known as the Messenger, a legendary hitman who was once one of the most expensive in the business. Back on the island, Abel received a call from Yanto instructing him to kill the children and their mother. But the locals had already caught wind of the gang's presence and quickly retreated indoors, locking their doors. It was a long, horrifying night as the local thugs attempted to take on a seasoned professional killer. Yanto's men had been taken care of by Ryan, but he had made a grave mistake. In his haste to confront the enemy, he had forgotten about guarding Genti's house. Donnie and Dewey had disappeared, and Genti was badly injured. Ryan initially thought that she was dead, but he quickly realized that she was still alive and provided her with first aid. Suddenly, Ryan's phone rang. On the other end was a man claiming to be Lee, who demanded that Ryan come to Jakarta within the next 4 hours. If he failed to comply, Lee threatened to kill Donnie and Dewey. Ryan also tended to Genti with the help of some of the neighboring mothers, promising to retrieve her children and bring them back. Yanto was captain of a ship guarded by his men, but they were taken by surprise when a killer arrived on board. Yanto called his boss, Lee, for help, but Lee had warned him to be cautious, to no avail. Yanto sent one of his crew members, Abel, to deal with the situation, but he was still terrified and called for his boss again. However, the phone was abruptly hung up. In a fit of rage, Yanto ordered his men to arm themselves and called for Abel to take out the killer, Ryan. Meanwhile, Ryan had entered a room where several women were being held captive. Despite their fear of him, Ryan gave them each a gun to defend themselves if anyone else entered the room. As Abel made his way towards the girl's room, he was quickly shot dead by one of the armed women. Yanto and his 2 men were also armed and fired their rifles at Ryan, but he proved too resilient. In that moment, Yanto realized he had made a grave mistake and pleaded with Ryan for forgiveness, offering everything he had. However, Ryan refused, stating that he had no need for Yanto's possessions and was much wealthier than him. Yanto's plea fell on deaf ears as Ryan ended his life. Ryan set off on a daring mission, driving his speedboat through the darkness towards Jakarta. He called Toby and gave her his activation code, requesting the services of 2 snipers in the area of his target location. However, only one sniper, named Mike, was available and he cost a whopping $1 million for just 1 hour of service. Undeterred, Ryan quickly transferred the payment and hired Mike for the job. Upon arriving at Tanjung Priok port, Ryan disembarked and quickly spotted the green infrared code signaling Mike's presence. Ryan immediately made contact with the sniper, providing him with the activation PIN code and discussing the details of the task at hand. Mike confirmed that he would be ready at the location in just 16 minutes, leaving Ryan to make his way to a waiting Bajaj. Ryan commandeered a Bajaj driven by a local named Audi, instructing him to drive to the first location. Ryan's demeanor and preparation made Audi nervous and scared. Ryan explained that he was there to rescue a little girl and would leave her at Audi's house before moving on to the second location. Despite Audi's fears, he was unable to back out of the situation and accompanied Ryan to the guarded building. Ryan warned Audi to stay in the Bajaj, as the building was heavily guarded. As they approached the building, the guards ordered Ryan to stop, but Mike, the sniper Ryan had hired, sprang into action. Using his radio, Mike awaited orders for the next target as he and Ryan launched into a merciless attack, unleashing a deadly massacre. Audie was terrified as he rode in the rickshaw, never expecting to be caught up in a horrifying ordeal. Suddenly, armed men approached and pointed their guns at him, shouting for him to get down. One of the men noticed Ryan's bag and accused Audie of being in cahoots with him. Just as they were about to shoot, one by one, the gunmen's heads exploded. Mike radioed in to confirm the rickshaw driver's safety and Ryan rushed upstairs. But Ryan's troubles were far from over. Upstairs, Vargas held Dewey at gunpoint, hired by Lee to take revenge on Ryan for a long-ago grudge. Vargas admired Ryan's skills but couldn't believe he'd come back for such a petty reason. As Mike readied his gun, Vargas connected a video call with Lee, who revealed that he had waited 12 long years for this day. Lee's parents had been murdered by Ryan, and now he sought revenge. Lee ordered Ryan to put down his gun, and when he did, Lee ordered his men to kill both Ryan and Dewey. But suddenly, all of Lee's men were shot down and Lee was left stunned, having never expected such an outcome. Ryan took swift action to protect Dewey, securing her to a corner of the room and warning her to close her eyes and ears. With his machete at the ready, Ryan informed Lee that he had taken out Vargas and was now coming for him. As he swung the blade at Vargas, Ryan threatened Lee with retribution if anything happened to Donnie. But despite the gravity of the situation, Lee remained fixated on his grudge against Ryan and ordered his men to prepare for a final showdown. After the chaotic events, Bajaj drove Ryan and Audie back to Audie's house under the cover of darkness. Ryan planned to return later that night to retrieve Dewey. Meanwhile, Audie's wife helped secure Dewey and tended to Ryan's injuries. Urging them to hurry, Ryan checked his phone and quickly tracked Donnie's GPS location. Mike strolls in calmly after Toby informs him that he has successfully received the funds from Ryan and has a new client waiting for him in Rome. However, just before the radio transmission ends, Mike overhears Ryan shouting about keeping a boy at the club and having to save one more. With an hour left before his flight, Mike decides to take matters into his own hands and head to the Red Club to help Ryan. Upon arrival, Ryan enters the club while Audie hesitates to follow. But Ryan reminds him that the boy's life is at stake and they can't back down now. Audie, despite being scared, decides to help and poses as a wealthy man, distributing all the dollar bills given by Ryan to the security guards. After buying and drinking alcohol to calm his nerves, Audie approaches the guards with his dollars, but they immediately stop him. With a quick thinking, Audie makes a show of sharing his dollars with the guards to gain entry. The party at the Red Club had already begun, and every door was tightly shut. This nightclub was owned by Lee, who used it as a hub for his illegal activities such as drug deals and human trafficking. Due to his connections with the police, no one dared to take down the club. Audie was awestruck by the atmosphere of the place, and even found himself getting drawn towards one of the female dancers on stage. However, he quickly remembered his mission from Ryan and realized he only had 10 minutes to distribute the money. So, he started acting like a boss and began giving out dollar bills to every security guard he met. Suddenly, he witnessed a young woman being forced to drink by a man, and he knew he had to act fast. Audie became a hero as he intervened and rescued the girl, handing the man a dollar bill to make him stop. But things quickly took a dangerous turn when the thugs realized that the money they were receiving was a paper bomb triggered by Ryan. With a gun in hand, Ryan positioned himself at the door, ready to take on Lee's men. The explosion caused chaos, and the visitors broke the doors in a frenzy to escape. Some people were hurt in the blast, but Ryan managed to enter the club. The battle raged on as Lee's men unleashed a barrage of machine gun fire on Ryan and Mike, who were fighting back with all their might. Mike's voice could be heard over the radio, coordinating the positions of Lee's men to give Ryan the upper hand. Together, Ryan and Mike managed to take down all of Lee's men in the room, leaving none alive. Mike signaled that he was leaving and headed out, while Ryan made his way down to the room below. Lee was starting to panic as all his men's radios in the room above went silent. When Ryan reached the lower level, he was met with a fourth hitman named Jack. Despite the odds stacked against him, Ryan was able to turn the situation around and kill Jack. However, as Ryan carelessly made his way towards Lee, he got shot. Lee took advantage of the opportunity and beat Ryan mercilessly. He was shocked to see this legendary man lying helpless before him, and didn't think it would be this easy to overpower him. As he aimed his gun, Lee hesitated. Killing Ryan right then and there would be too easy. Instead, he grabbed a sword hanging on the wall and stabbed Ryan with it. The sword was the same one Ryan had used to kill Lee's parents, leaving Ryan speechless and haunted by his past. Lee then claimed ownership of Donnie and Dewey, stating they would serve him for life. But as Lee swung his sword, Donnie woke up from his daze and shot Lee with an arrow. Ryan seized the opportunity to convince Lee to let go of his vendetta and asked Donnie to close his eyes. Lee died with his revenge unfulfilled, and Donnie helped Ryan escape. Audie emerged from the bathroom to find Lee's men dead and the police arriving. He hastily left the scene, shaken by the experience. A week later, while sleeping in his Bajaj, Audie felt a jolt, thinking a passenger had climbed in. He woke up to find nobody there but a small black suitcase. After finding a photo with numbers written on it, Audie unlocked the suitcase to find a large stack of dollar bills and a picture of Ryan with the family he had saved. Overjoyed, Audie searched for Ryan but couldn't find him. The kind stranger had repaid his debt in an unexpected way, leaving Audie with a newfound sense of gratitude. The moral lesson that we can learn from this movie is confronting and making amends with our past is important, being kind and compassionate towards others can have a positive impact, standing up for what is right is necessary, and appreciating simple pleasures in life is valuable.